Hello folks, Alex here. This is Alex Unabridged, and today for Tag Tuesday I'm going to do the Around the World in 8 T's tag. Yes, so welcome or welcome back if that is the case. Today another tag video, Around the World in 8 T's. So each question is themed with a T prompt, as you'll see. Yes, I saw this on Tome Raider's channel, and really liked the look of it, decided I would do it. But the original tag creator is Book Time with Elvis, so I will link to both of those channels below, both fantastic channels, so do go check them out. I think this is quite an old tag because there are some references to the coronavirus lockdown in the questions, so I have slightly paraphrased some of the questions or removed some of those references just to make it a bit more up to date now that we actually can all go out again. So, first prompt, beginning with T, is theatre. Do you read plays? If so, tell us about one of your favourites. This is a really tough question for me to pick one of my favourites because my degree is in drama and I worked in theatre for 10 years, so theatre was pretty much my life for quite a while. So I have a whole slew of plays that I absolutely adore. So I'm going to cheat slightly. I'm going to pick two. But I'm going to make them, kind of worlds apart in that respect. So the first one is one of the absolute classics, and my favourite, I think, Shakespeare, and that is Twelfth Night. This was the one that kind of made me go, oh, I do like Shakespeare, because prior to this, I'd only ever had to read stuff at school, and I think I was too young to understand the language. It wasn't taught particularly well, and for me, personally, Shakespeare definitely needs to be seen as well as read for me to properly be able to get language. Twelfth Night was one of the first productions that I saw, and also that I was involved in. And I fell in love with it. I just absolutely love the comedy in this. It's got some of my all-time favourite Shakespeare characters in it, characters like Malvolio, Feste, generally the kind of the clowning elements of this, the real comedy elements of this, fantastic. I like the story of kind of the mistaken identity, kind of the gender switch, all that kind of stuff in it. It's just one that I always enjoy when I see it. I've been fortunate to see some incredible productions of it over the years as well, and yeah, this one just always brings a smile to my face, and I think it's quite a good entry point into Shakespeare because it's quite light. It's got some fantastic lines in it that everybody will know as well, but I think it's quite a light one in terms of kind of mood and stuff. And yeah, I think it's just a really good, accessible Shakespeare. The other play that I love, which is not modern, because I need to remember that this was written probably like 30 years ago now, but it was certainly one of the plays that I fell in love with when I was, kind of 20, 21, something like that, when I was really in deep with the theatre stuff. And one of the first plays that I actually directed when I was a final student at university, and that was Weldon Rising by Phyllis Nage, which is one of the plays in this collection. It was one that just captured me. It tells the story of a group of characters who they witness a homophobic murder, and it's less about the murder and more about their guilt afterwards and the crime of inaction and the fact they didn't do enough to kind of prevent it from happening. It's a small play. It's only kind of sort of six cast members. Yes, 6 cast members, and it's quite strange. It has an amazing soundtrack to it, of kind of Sylvester and Donna Summer and stuff like that. It is one of those plays for me that will always hold some of my best memories, I think, of both studying it, reading it for the first time, and being fortunate enough to be given the opportunity to direct quite a decent production of it in terms of big theatre, for a bit of funding, stuff like that, and also Phyllis Nage herself came to see it, which was, oh my god, so scary. But was fantastic as well, and so I actually got to meet Nage and talk to her about the play as well, which was incredible. So yeah, that will always be one of my absolute favourites. Okay, prompt number 2, travel. Do you have a favourite travel writer or travel book to take you away on armchair adventures? I do actually read, in my non-fiction, I do actually read quite a lot of like mountaineering adventures, expeditions, that kind of stuff. And hiking things, all that kind of stuff. So yes, I have a couple. So it depends on what I'm after when I'm reading travel and adventure stuff. If I want something that's kind of completely outside of my experience, and always will be, then I would say probably one of my favourites is No Shortcuts to the Top by Ed Viesturs, which is Ed's kind of account of his mission, if you like, or desire, adventures, to climb all 14 of the 8,000-meter peaks in the world. And I just really like his very straightforward style, and he's quite a measured person as well. He really kind of he calculates risk very well, and I am a terrible risk assessor when it comes to life. I probably over risk assess, but it's really interesting to see how he calculates the risk of doing these things, but and ways of mitigating that, and just the way he talks about the challenges and things like that, in his life, and how he fits it all in and all that kind of stuff. I found that very interesting. And the second one that I really liked, that is something that I could kind of see myself doing at some stage, not necessarily in the way that it's done in the book, but certainly doing the actual adventure, and that is Simon Armitage's Walking Home: Travels with a Troubadour on the Pennine Way. Pennine Way is one of England's national trails, one of the kind of the most known ones, and the start of it is just over the hill that I can see just out of my window. It's not that far away at all, and so I've walked quite a few sections of the Pennine Way in the past, the local ones to me, and some further north. And I walk on the Pennine Way regularly when I just go out for walks, because it's my local stomping ground. It's about 250 miles, and it traces the backbone of England, basically, the Pennines. And he did it by doing poetry readings at kind of each stage, each stop along the way, and kind of getting essentially donations like a troubadour, so to kind of fund his food and things like that along the way. And he relied on very kind people to put him up, things like that. And Simon Armitage is a poet, and he's got a very, very he's got a lovely writing style even when he's writing prose. This one, I actually had this on audiobook when I first read it, and I read it, or listened to it, when I was on a trail myself, and I was camping, and I was really ill while I was camping. I got heat exhaustion, and I was really ill in a tent on my own, and that was horrible. But Simon got me through it because his voice is so calming on the audiobook. That's basically just kind of gave me something to focus on, something to like chill out with when I was feeling just sick as a dog. And yeah, so that in that respect, it's like, I think that's probably one reason why I love it so much. But it's just a really good book. It's just a really lovely story, told well, about his experiences, and it celebrates the landscape, but also the people that he walked with and the people that he met along the way. And that's something I do like about this sort of thing. It's hiking for me is about connection with other people, as much as it is about connection with the landscape. So that really kind of tapped into that for me. Prompt number 3 is time. What book took you the longest time to read and why? Again, I'm going to cheat. I'm going to do 2 because the first one is a very easy answer, and that would be Great Expectations by Charles Dickens. And it took so long because it was read at school, and it basically took us the entire year to get through it in English class. And I hated every minute of it. One of my most detested books, probably because of the way that it was read and the way that it was taught. But I have tried Dickens since, and I'm just not a fan. It's just not for me generally. But yeah, Great Expectations, because teaching of that and the length of time was painful. And the other one is this one, Foucault's Pendulum by Umberto Eco. This one took me a long time to get through because of its language. In terms of, Eco was a semiotician and picks his language choice, his word choice, etc., is very specific to what his exact meaning. He also likes to explore quite arcane subjects and concepts, and will often there's a smattering of sort of academic stuff in there. He was an academic, and that you can tell by the way that he writes, but nonetheless he also is. I love his prose as well, and so this is probably, I think this is, I can see it's underlined a lot. I had to stop and look up a lot, not just word meanings, but references to things I had no clue about. But this was my first Umberto Eco that I read, and despite the fact that I was constantly stopping to look things up, and it was really hard work in terms of understanding a lot of the stuff in it that I needed to check out and research myself, I really enjoyed that process. So this one was like a big hit for me because of the fact that it really kind of taught me a lot. And it was an enjoyable challenge. There was no pain involved in this one. So that's the good one. Dickens, unfortunately, not so much. Prompt number 4, traditional. So we're talking fairy tales or nursery rhymes. What are some of your favourites, and what are some that you would think are not suitable for kids today? Okay, my favourites. Lots of the Grimm tales, so particularly Rumpelstiltskin. Particularly liked that one as a kid, and as an adult, when I've read the darker versions. And Little Red Riding Hood, that was always a favourite. Although I know that was originally, I know Grimm did a version of it, the Grimm brothers did a version of it, but I can't remember who was it somebody like Charles Perrault, something like that, a French author, was the originator of kind of that story, as far as I'm aware. And I also liked Hans Christian Andersen as well. I studied Danish for a year at university before I switched and did something a little more useful in terms of drama. And we read some of the fairy tales in Danish, which was very interesting. And I really enjoyed those as well. In terms of suitable for kids, I think it depends on the kid. But I mean, a lot of the the Grimm stuff and even Hans Christian Andersen. There's some dark. The original stories. There's some darkness there. There's some violence and darkness. Even in the up to date ones, there's still kind of a bit, some of them. The Disney versions probably suitable for most kids. I think the original ones probably you'd generally want to wait till the kid's a bit older. I've got a niece who's coming up 12, and I would say pretty much any of the darker versions for her are fine because she's already reading horror. She's already reading like teen horror and stuff like that. But yeah, I think it's just going to depend on the kid, isn't it? It's like some of them are dark side divers and can handle it, and some of them aren't. Some of them are like I was, and just poor little scaredy cat. So yeah, I think that's kind of it's quite subjective. That prompt number 5, tasty, food, glorious food. What are some of your favourite books about food? Oh, I love food. The way to my heart is through my stomach, absolutely. And I'm the one who does most of the cooking in our household. I hate washing up, and fortunately, my wife doesn't mind doing that. She's less of a cook. She can cook, but she's less of a cook. She enjoys it less than I do. I like it. So I'm the one who generally has all the cookbooks, and I think one of my favourites has got to be when it comes to desserts, and it's got to be Nigella. It's got to be a bit of Nigella. Has to be a domestic goddess, or god, Nigella, or something in between. And yeah, this is a dangerous book for me, a really dangerous book. I haven't used it in a while because we were trying not to cook quite so much, or I was trying not to bake so much, naughty stuff. But it's just, it's got some great kind of, showstoppers in it, but it's generally just, good traditional desserts, lots of steamed puddings and pies. Oh, I do like a pie. And brownies and muffins and pancakes and all that kind of stuff. It's disgusting inside this book because I've had my sticky, greasy, sugar-coated fingers on it when I've been baking. When I cook, it looks, I'm a whirlwind in the kitchen, so like it always looks like a bomb's gone off in there by the time I've finished. But yeah, this book has given me so much joy, culinary joy, and gastronomic joy over the years, because it's easy stuff to do as well, and like Nigella doesn't kind of it's not all about kind of style and difficulty and all of that. It's about just really good, naughty, yummy food. So this is the one for me, but pretty much anything by Nigella. Prompt number 6 is terrible. Who is a truly terrible, nasty that is, but memorable character that stands out for you? I think this is the one where I'm going to have to dip into the Stephen King library that I have, and it's a difficult one because there's some really good, terrible characters. I think there's 2 that come to mind that I really kind of detested. One of which is Harold Lauder from The Stand, because I just find that character arc really interesting. But I think actually the one that I just hated so much as a character, as a person, is Brady Hartsfield from Mr. Mercedes, and who appears again in later books. Now, this may be an unpopular opinion, I don't know, but I loved Mr. Mercedes. I wasn't as enamoured with the other 2 books in the series. I think there was elements of those that fell down for me. But Mr. Mercedes, I absolutely love as one of, you know, it probably is one of my favourite Stephen King books. Certainly in the top 10 for me of Stephen King. And I don't see many people kind of talk about it as one of their favourites, so I'm assuming I'm maybe an outlier on that. But yeah, Brady Hartsfield, oh, it's just horrible, arrogant, psychopathic, just really mean and evil, just evil human character. Do you know what I mean? And I think for me that those are the ones that are, you know, truly terrible, when it's nothing, it's not something supernatural. It's, you know, or it's not a human who's imbued with something supernatural. It's just someone who is just a thoroughly horrible human being. And he really did just, oh yeah, I think he is probably one of my most hated characters. Okay, number 7, truth. The truth is often stranger than fiction, they say. So give us some examples of this from your extensive reading. Again, I can go back to the adventure type stories for this, and something like Touching the Void by Joe Simpson, and his incredible like survival story from when he broke his leg on descent from a high peak with a climbing partner who then tried to get him down, and then he fell into a crevasse and managed to find his way out of a crevasse by going deeper and, you know, fortunately finding a way out further down, and then having to drag himself off the mountain with a broken leg, no food, no water, over, you know, more crevasse filled glacier and then boulder fields, and oh my goodness, like that for me is like, how the hell are you still alive? So there's that kind of thing. The other one is Escape from Camp 14 by Blaine Harden, which tells the story of a North Korean guy, Shin Don-hyuk, I think I'm pronouncing that in the ballpark, who's one of the few people to have been born in a North Korean political prison, and to have escaped and survived. And it follows kind of his life within the prison, and then his escape out of the prison and out of North Korea, and kind of, you know, his survival, his story. This one was just one of those that was just, you know, to trying to like get my head round the fact that these places really, that they exist in the same world that I live in, and, you know, it you know, it really does take some thought, I think, when you read something like that. It is something where, because you know, if your own experiences are so alien to that experience, it does take a while to kind of really get your head around those. And so in that respect, yeah, the truth is stranger than fiction. I've read some pretty, you know, horrendous fiction, and some very kind of like, you know, fantastical fiction. But yeah, that sort of story is one of those where you kind of have to go, this is an account of someone real, you know. So yeah, that one was quite an eye opener for me when I read it. Prompt number 8 is makeup. An 8th prompt, sticking to the theme of tea, and that is for me Teach, a book that has taught me a new skill, or improved my skill and inspired me, basically. And that I'm going to go with this one for something that I always go back to, again and again and again. This is kind of my Bible, if you like, for my work, and that is Lino Cut for Artists and Designers by Nick Morley. You could pick this up, I think, without any experience of lino cut, and he will take you through all of the like terminology, all the materials that you're going to need, the tools that you're going to need, where to start, you know, even just from like transferring designs to the lino, cutting, printing, all that kind of stuff, and then goes on to look at advanced techniques as well. So there's like so much stuff in there that I still need to try. He also includes work from other lino cut artists as well, and some of his own stuff, like this Vertigo poster. And so it's just full of it's full of inspiration from other artists as well as like what can be done with lino cut. And it just really, really inspired me to work in the medium more. And I still need to like learn a lot. I've kind of got to a point where I'm comfortable with it. But yeah, there's still so much I really want to try in terms of different techniques. So yes, that is my one for the 8th prompt of teach, which is my prompt. So yes, so those are all the prompts. I should probably tag someone. I'm only going to tag one person. I'm still very new to this whole booktube malarkey, and don't know that many people yet. But seeing as Troy Tradup tagged me very kindly in a tag that he created a couple of weeks ago, I'm going to return the favour, albeit not for a tag I've created. But yes, I think it's time I returned. So there you go, Troy. Tag your it. I look forward to seeing potentially what you come up with for these answers. So yes, that is it from me today. I will be back soon with more ramblings on all things bookish. If you liked this video, please do consider giving me a like and potentially subscribing for more content coming soon. But from me, for now, that's ta-ra.